At 17, my adopted sister accused me of getting her pregnant. My family disowned me. My girlfriend left, and I disappeared. 10 years later, the truth came out, and they showed up crying at my door. I didn't answer. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd post something like this, but after what happened a decade ago, I just need to tell someone. My family cut me off overnight because of one lie. Now, after all these years, the truth has finally surfaced. I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want to share how it happened. I'm Jackson, 27. When I was 17, my life ended without me actually dying. That night, my family was hosting one of our usual Saturday dinners. Grandparents, uncles, cousins, everyone was there. My parents loved these gatherings. Mom thrived on attention, talking loud and bragging about how united our family was. Dad was outside at the grill, while my brother and I carried chairs from the garage. And then there was Anne, my adopted sister. My parents brought her home when she was 8 because they'd always wanted a daughter. She fit in right away, quiet, polite, shy. I helped her with homework, taught her how to ride a bike, and even stood up for her when kids teased her for being adopted. She was simply my sister. Nothing more, nothing less. That night, though, she seemed off. She wasn't eating, kept fidgeting with her hands. I figured maybe she was tired or feeling sick. After dinner, when everyone was in the living room, she suddenly stood up, trembling. She said she needed to tell everyone something. Her voice cracked, as if she was about to cry. Then she said it. Jackson, he forced me. At first, it didn't register. The room froze. All I could hear was the ticking clock. I thought I'd misheard her. Maybe it was a bad joke or some confusion. But then she added, I'm pregnant. Before I could speak, my dad's fist hit me square in the face. Everything went white. I hit the floor, ears ringing, teeth buzzing. Mom started screaming like someone had died. My brother just stood there, shaking his head, muttering, Jackson, what's wrong with you? You're disgusting. Dad, I tried to explain, but another punch came before I could finish. You sick bastard, he yelled, his face red with fury. You've brought shame to this family. Anne cried in Mom's arms, shaking, while my aunt held her close, whispering, it's okay, you're safe now. My brother Jake spat near my shoe. Get out, he said coldly. You don't deserve to breathe the same air as us. I looked around at all the faces I'd known my entire life. Not one looked at me like family anymore, only disgust. She's lying, I said, voice breaking. I swear on my life she's lying. No one cared. Mom screamed, don't even say her name. Don't talk to her. Someone, maybe my uncle, called the police. By the time they arrived, I was sitting on the porch, blood dripping from my mouth. One officer asked my dad if I was the suspect. He nodded without looking at me. The cops didn't rough me up. I think they could tell I was just a kid who looked half dead. Still, riding in that back seat with the sirens blaring felt like being buried alive. At the station, they questioned me nonstop. When did it happen? Where were you? Did she say no? I kept repeating, it never happened. None of it. They didn't book me. There was no evidence. Nothing. By morning, they let me go. I overheard one officer mutter, statutory case, under his breath. Anne was 16, I was 17. Barely a year apart, but they still had to ask everything. They reviewed statements, called social services, even checked our phone records. In the end, there was nothing to hold me on. They told me to stay available for further questions and let me leave. But by the time I walked outside, the damage was already done. Our town was small, and word spread fast. By sunrise, half of it had already decided I was guilty. I didn't go home right away. I walked until my legs gave out. When I finally returned, all my stuff was dumped on the front lawn. Clothes, school books, my backpack. My dad stood by the door like a guard. "Get out," he said. His voice wasn't angry anymore, just cold. "You're done here." "Dad, please, you know me, I would never—" "Don't call me that," he interrupted. "You're not my son." I looked at my mom through the doorway, hoping for a sign of compassion. She turned away, clutching Anne like she was protecting her from a monster. Jake slammed the door shut behind them. My hands shook as I picked up my things. Later that night, my phone buzzed. It was Emma, my girlfriend of a year. She whispered through tears, "I believe you, Jack. I swear I do. But my parents won't let me talk to you. They think it's true." A backpack and $200 in my wallet. When the gaslight blinked red, the car finally slowed near a sign that said, "Welcome to Maplewood." I didn't care where I was. I parked behind a row of old stores, the kind that looked half abandoned. My hands shook from hunger and cold. I'd been living off vending machine snacks for days. Across the street, a diner had a help wanted sign taped to its window. I stood there for a while, trying to gather the courage to walk in. When I finally did, the bell above the door jingled. Behind the counter stood a man with broad shoulders, a gray beard, and deep lines in his face. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice rough. "I saw the sign," I said quietly. "I can wash dishes. Anything, really." He looked me over. Wrinkled clothes, muddy shoes. "Ever worked in a kitchen?" "No, sir." He grunted. "You start now. Meals after your shift." That was all he said. No paperwork, no questions, just work. The kitchen was small, hot, and noisy. I scrubbed plates and pans until my hands turned raw. Andy's first meal for me was a half-eaten burger and fries left by a customer. I didn't care. I ate it like I hadn't eaten in weeks. When closing time came, I tried to return the plate, telling him I'd find somewhere to sleep. Andy wiped his hands on a towel and said, "There's a room upstairs. Not fancy, but it's got a bed and a lock. You can work it off." It was the first kindness I'd been shown in weeks. The room was small, maybe 10 feet across, with a worn mattress, a flickering light, and peeling wallpaper. But it was a roof. The floor didn't move beneath me. I collapsed on the bed and slept for 14 hours straight. Over the next days, I found a rhythm. Andy didn't talk much, but he'd mutter things like, "Good job." Those 2 words meant more than any apology I'd ever received. 2 weeks later, I came downstairs to lock up and found Andy at the counter reading the paper. He looked up and asked, "Kid, what's your story?" I froze. "What do you mean?" "Got a customer today, a trucker. Said he saw your picture in a paper a few towns over. Family trouble, maybe?" My stomach dropped. I started to shake. "It's not what it looks like. It's a lie. My adopted sister made it up. I swear." Andy raised his hand. "Calm down, kid. I don't care what they say." "You don't?" I asked quietly. He leaned back on the stool. "Everybody's got a story. You're here working. That's what matters. Keep your head down. Do your job. Build your life. The rest'll sort itself out." Those words stayed with me. For the first time since that night, I didn't feel like a monster. That evening, sitting on the bed, I stared at the cracked wall, trying to take it all in. Andy didn't know me, yet he gave me a chance, something my own family couldn't do. One night, I looked at my phone, scrolling through my contacts. I hesitated, then called home. I just needed to hear my mother's voice. Maybe enough time had passed. Maybe they knew the truth. She answered on the third ring. "Mom, it's me," I said quietly. Silence. "Jackson?" "Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm okay. I found a job." "Don't call here again." She interrupted. Her voice broke slightly. "Your father doesn't even want your name spoken in this house." Then she hung up. I stared at the screen until it went dark. That was the last time I ever tried. Weeks turned into months. I worked long shifts and saved what little I could. Andy started teaching me small repairs, how to fix a pipe, patch a vent, check a thermostat. "Learn to fix things, kid," he'd say. "It's the only way to survive." One night after closing, curiosity got the best of me. I searched Anne's name online. There she was, smiling, belly round, surrounded by family holding pink balloons that said, "It's a girl." My mother stood beside her, proud, holding a baby-shaped cake. My brother smiled in the corner, like nothing had ever happened. My throat burned, my stomach twisted, until I had to close the laptop. That was the night I decided I'd never be Jackson Smith again. Something inside me shut off. No more explaining, no more hoping. The version of me they buried was gone. From then on, I threw myself into work. I arrived before sunrise and left long after dark. I repaired faucets, cleaned grease traps, replaced filters, anything that needed doing. One afternoon, while I was unclogging a sink, Andy asked, "You ever think about learning this for real?" I looked up confused. "Like plumbing?" He chuckled. "Nah, bigger. Heating, cooling, HVAC. People always need air or heat. That skill keeps you fed." The way he said it stuck with me. I was tired of just washing dishes. I wanted something solid, something no one could take away. A few weeks later, Andy handed me a community college flyer. "Night classes," he said. "You'd be good at it. Pay what you can. I'll cover the rest until you're steady." I stared at the paper for a long time. No one had ever offered to help me before, not even my own family. I signed up the next day. The first few months were rough. I worked 10-hour shifts at the diner, then caught the bus to night classes, fighting to stay awake through lectures about compressors and coils. But every time I fixed something and felt the cold air return, it was like fixing part of myself too. Andy kept pushing me. "Don't just get good," he said. "Get so good they can't ignore you." By the time I earned my GED, I was already halfway through the HVAC program. I started taking small repair jobs, Andy's place, the diner, a few customers nearby. When my certificate arrived, Andy framed it and hung it in the diner's hallway like it was his own kid's diploma. "Not bad for a runaway," he said, patting my shoulder. I laughed, though the words still hurt. With Andy's help, I saved enough to buy a used truck and a second-hand set of tools. I left the diner and joined a local HVAC company full-time. One summer afternoon, a coworker named Derek got accused of stealing money from a client's kitchen. The boss was ready to fire him on the spot. But something about his face, the same fear I'd once felt, made me step in. "Check the vent," I said. Everyone stared. I climbed up, removed the cover, and found the missing envelope half sucked into the duct. The client must have placed it too close to the return air. Derek nearly cried. The boss apologized. Later, Andy heard about it through a supplier and called me. "Good job, kid. You didn't just fix air. You fixed a mess." That's what separates men from mechanics. Those words stayed with me. Years passed like that. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. Life was steady, predictable, safe. But sometimes, late at night, I'd feel something hollow inside, like an old life was still buried somewhere. One night, while doing invoices, I logged into an old social media account I hadn't touched in years. I shouldn't have. There they were, my family, smiling around a birthday cake with a little girl about 10. My mother held her, my father's arm wrapped around them. My brother stood nearby, grinning like he hadn't once spit at my feet. The caption read, "Happy birthday to our miracle girl. Family is everything." My chest tightened. I scrolled through photo after photo until I couldn't breathe. They looked happy, complete, like I'd never existed. That night, I sat in my truck after work and made a decision. I went home, deleted every account, every record of Jackson Smith. By morning, I filed for a legal name change, Jackson Winter, after my grandmother's maiden name. She was the only one who'd ever shown me real kindness. Weeks later, when the new ID arrived, I studied it for a long time. The man in the photo looked different, stronger, harder. Not a boy anymore. That was the day I stopped running from what they did to me and started building something they couldn't destroy. 10 years later, I owned my own business, Winter Heating and Air. Just a few vans, 3 employees, and steady clients who trusted my work. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest. Life had finally evened out. Then one early summer afternoon, everything changed again. I was repairing an old air unit behind a bakery, sweat dripping down my back, when my phone started buzzing non-stop. Unknown number, hometown area code. I ignored it twice. The third time, I answered. "Yeah, this is Winter." Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 10 years. "Jackson." My chest tightened. "Who's this?" "It's me, Emma." Everything around me went quiet. The fan, the street noise, everything. "Emma, how did you—" "I know I shouldn't call," she said softly, "but I thought you should hear this from someone who actually believes you." That sentence alone made my throat close. "Anne's been arrested." I blinked. "Arrested? For what?" "For lying," she said. "For accusing another guy the same way she did to you." I leaned against the van, dizzy. "What?" "The guy she accused this time fought back, got a lawyer. During the investigation, she admitted she'd lied before, about you. She confessed everything. Jackson, they cleared your name, officially." I couldn't speak. My hand went numb around the phone. Emma hesitated. "I just thought you should know. I'm sorry it took this long." "Thank you," I finally managed. "Before I can say more," she whispered, "I'm married now, with W. But I never forgot what they did to you." I smiled faintly. "You were the only one who ever believed me, Emma. Don't feel bad for that." We talked for another minute, awkward, quiet, but kind. Then she said goodbye. That was it. I sat in my van for nearly an hour afterward, staring at the steering wheel. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or scream. My name was cleared, but 10 years too late. By morning, the calls started. Private numbers, then emails. Even my company inbox got one that read, "Please call us back." Curiosity got the best of me once. I answered an unknown number. "Jackson," said a shaky voice I knew instantly, my mother. "Don't hang up," she pleaded. "Anne told the police everything. We didn't know." I hung up. They didn't know because they didn't want to. Later that week, a local newspaper reached out for a statement. I declined. I wasn't looking for headlines or sympathy. I wanted something better. Silence. But silence never lasts forever. My brother was the first to reach out through email. saying he'd been young and foolish, hoping we could start over. Then came a voicemail from my dad. "We just want to see you, son. We made mistakes." Mistakes. Forgetting someone's birthday is a mistake. What they did was a choice. Instead of replying, I wrote letters. Not ones filled with forgiveness or kind words, but truth. I wrote about every night I slept in my car, shivering. About the damp room above the diner. About Andy, the man who gave me a roof when my own family cast me aside. I told them how it felt to burn my school ID because their names made me sick. How it hurt to see pictures of them smiling, with Anne and her daughter, while I scrubbed greasy pans for scraps. They didn't just destroy my reputation. They took my home, my trust, and every bit of peace I could have had left. Each letter ended the same way. "You didn't believe me when I told the truth. Now you can live." I never mailed them. I kept them stacked in a shoebox, tucked in my desk drawer. That night, sitting in my workshop, surrounded by invoices, tools, vans, and the company name painted on the wall, all built by my own hands, I realized something. Everything I'd lost was gone for good, but everything I'd built couldn't be taken from me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel erased. I felt written again, by myself. But peace doesn't last forever, either. When the truth about Anne finally spread through town, the same people who abandoned me suddenly remembered I existed. It started with a knock on my office door one afternoon. I was fixing a thermostat when I heard a voice call my name. "Jackson." I froze, turned around. It was my mom. She looked smaller, older, her energy drained. Her gray roots showed, and her hands trembled as she held a foil-covered casserole dish. "I made you a favorite," she whispered. "Chicken and rice. You used to love it." For a moment I couldn't move. The smell hit me. The same meal she made the night before my life fell apart. I stood up slowly. "Why are you here?" Tears filled her eyes. "I just wanted to see you, to say sorry. We were wrong. Anne lied. We know that now." I leaned against the counter. "You're 10 years too late." She wiped her nose. I didn't know what to believe. She was crying. "And your father?" I cut her off. "You didn't even ask me. You never let me speak. You told me never to come back." She stepped closer. "Please, Jack." "Don't call me that," I snapped. "You lost that right." She flinched. I pointed toward the door. "You should go." She hesitated, setting the casserole on the counter. "At least eat this, please." I stared at it. "Throw it out when you leave." When the door closed behind her, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. 2 days later, I came back from a service call and saw him leaning against his truck outside the office. He smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey, son." I said nothing. "You've done well for yourself," he said, glancing around. "Business, trucks, employees. I'm proud of you. Get to the point." He shifted his jaw. "Your mother's not doing great. She cries every day. Maybe if we all sat down, cleared the air." "Cleared the air?" I almost laughed. "You beat me and threw me out. You cleared the air when you said I wasn't your son." He sighed. "I was angry. You have to understand. It was a different time. Things looked bad. So you hit first and asked questions never." His face hardened. "You don't have to hold on to hate, son." "I'm not holding on to hate," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm holding on to self-respect." He frowned. "What are you doing?" I pressed a button. "Security, I've got a trespasser out front. Big guy in a red jacket." His expression changed. "You're calling security on your own father?" "You're not my father," I said. "You're a stranger who ruined my life." The security guard came over a few minutes later and asked him to leave. Dad muttered curses as he stormed to his truck and sped away. When silence filled the room again, I sat at my desk, staring at the empty spot where he'd stood. Gossip trickled back to me over the next few months. My family was falling apart. Dad lost his job after a fight with a supervisor. Mom barely left the house. My brother's wife took their kids and moved in with her parents after learning what really happened. Their perfect image was collapsing. People say karma takes its time. I'd say it showed up right on schedule. One afternoon, my employee Kevin brought a small box into the office. "Hey, boss, this was outside the door," he said. Inside were dozens of letters, all addressed to me, Jackson Smith, written in shaky handwriting. No return address. I didn't need one. It was my mom's writing. I carried the box to the back room, set it on a shelf, and walked away. That night, I stared at that shelf, thinking about what might be inside. Apologies, excuses, maybe verses about forgiveness. But forgiveness is for people who never spent nights sleeping in their car, wondering why no one believed them. I didn't want closure. I wanted distance. So I left the letters sealed, every single one. They wanted forgiveness to lighten their guilt, not because they earned it. They didn't want me. They wanted redemption, and I wasn't giving it to them. I looked out the window and muttered, "They erased me once. Now I erase them forever." I thought that was the end, but the past always finds a way back. 3 months later, I got a letter. Plain white envelope, no return address. Inside was a single page. "Ann Williams requests to meet with you at Maple Ridge Correctional Facility." Her name anymore. I threw it away, then pulled it back out, then threw it away again. But the thought lingered. For 10 years, I'd imagined what I'd say if I ever saw her again. Maybe it was time. A week later, I drove to the prison. 2 hours away, middle of nowhere. The guards scanned my ID, buzzed me through, and led me into a gray visiting room that smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. I sat at a metal table, hands flat, listening to families whisper around me. I didn't belong among them. Then she walked in. I barely recognized her. Thin, pale, her face lined with exhaustion. The girl who once cried and called me a monster now looked like a ghost. She sat down. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. I didn't reply. "You look different," she said after a pause. "Older." "You look guilty," I said. Her eyes filled instantly. "I deserve that." "No," I said calmly. "You deserve worse." Tears welled up. "I know. I'm sorry. For everything. For lying. For ruining your life." "Why?" I asked quietly. "Why me?" She looked down. "Because you were safe to blame. You were quiet. You never fought back. I knew people would believe me because you were the good one, and I panicked." "You panicked, so you destroyed me?" She nodded, crying harder. "I didn't think it would go that far. I thought people would forget. I just wanted sympathy." "You got it," I said. "You got love, support, protection, while I slept in my car behind a gas station." She pressed her hands to her eyes. "I know. I hate myself for it. I can't sleep. I see your face every night." "Good," I said. "You should." Then she whispered, "My daughter still doesn't know the truth. Mom said it would confuse her to change the story. She still thinks it was you." I froze. Even after everything came out, the lie lived on. "She asks about you sometimes," Anne said quietly. "She's seen old photo. You never came around." That hit harder than anything. Somewhere out there was a child, not mine, believing the same lie that destroyed my life. I stood up. "You don't get to tell me that. You don't get to throw that on me now." She reached out, trembling. "I'm sorry, Jackson. I just needed you to know." I stared at her. You stole 10 years from me. I hope you never sleep peacefully again." She cried harder. "I deserve it," she said. "You do." I turned and walked out. Outside, I sat in my truck, gripping the wheel, staring at the prison fence. I thought I'd feel free, but I didn't. There was no victory, just exhaustion. Some things don't fix when the truth surfaces. Some things stay cracked. But as I drove away, I realized walking away was power. For the first time, I didn't feel erased. I felt finished. A year passed. Life finally made sense. I sold my old place and bought a small house outside the city. 3 bedrooms, fenced yard, nothing. Then came Rachel, a graphic designer I met through a client. Calm, kind, never pushed for details about my past. She just said, "Whatever it was, you're not that man anymore." We'd been together a year. She moved in with her cat, and I adopted a rescue dog named Edgar. The house finally felt alive. Then one morning, another envelope came. No return address. Inside was a letter from David Kenderson, the second man Anne had accused. His note was short. "Mr. Winter, I'm filing a defamation suit against Anne. You deserve that justice too. My lawyer says your testimony could help. If you're interested, call me." I called that afternoon. We met at a coffee shop the next day. He was around my age, maybe a bit older. We shook hands like we'd known each other forever. "Feels weird, doesn't it?" he said. "Yeah," I said. "But I guess we both survived." We talked for an hour. When he asked if I'd join the lawsuit, I didn't hesitate. "I'm in." The case took months. But I faced it head-on. I testified calmly, without anger, telling the truth. When the judge ruled, the room went silent. Walking out, I felt lighter. My name was finally clean, not buried under shame, but standing beside truth, justice, and vindication. Then came one last voicemail. Late at night, unknown number. I almost ignored it, but it went to voicemail. "Son, it's Dad. The doctors say it's cancer, stage 4. I don't want anything. I just want to see you one last time. Please." "I'm sorry." The message ended with a shaky breath. I played it again, then deleted it. Not out of anger, just acceptance. I remembered the night he punched me. The words, "You're not my son." He chose his truth then. I was choosing mine now. "They threw me out into the cold once," I whispered. "Now I fix other people's air." That's irony. That's peace. They erased me once, but I rebuilt myself. And this time, my story ends on my terms. Steady, quiet, and always north.